and welcome to Citizens Forum. This is being filmed on a very famous day, September the 11th, in the Memorial Arena in downtown Victoria. I'd like to thank our volunteer staff and the Shaw crew that makes it all happen. The first part of Citizens Forum is always the Walter and Jack show, and I'll start off, as I always seem to do. I played disc golf last week. Disc golf is frisbee golf. I went with somebody who's a good player, and he told me there's a whole world of disc golf out there. I mean, it's international, it's growing, it's happening. The nice thing about it was we were out in a beautiful park in the evening where I wouldn't have been, and you know, throwing the frisbee or throwing the disc at a spot like golf, it gives you something to do and something to talk about while you're walking around and having a beautiful evening. It was great. And what I'd like to do is kind of push a little bit for some disc golf courses here in Victoria, because I don't think there's anything. There was one. It got overused because there was only one. There's a fairly big community here that likes to play. They need places, and it would just be something great. It gets you out, you're walking outside, anybody can play. It can be totally non-competitive if you want, and it's just great.
You could just play it in a park, or it doesn't have to be in a golf course or anything like that?
It can be played anywhere, really, but you know, in a park there's people walking around, so you know it's difficult to do. I think what's needed is some dedicated spots. I used to walk my dog years ago at UVic, and there was a disc golf course that was played out around the fringe of the university, and I'd see people playing all the time. It was great.
That sounds great.
Anyways, disc golf, all politicians, health people who want to make people more healthy, disc golf is where it's at. And also, I've heard, world peace through disc golf. So, smart meters.
Well, here I am again talking about smart meters. In this case,
but smart meters are symbolic or symptomatic of so many things that are happening.
Yeah, in the big picture, BC Hydro has installed these so-called consumption meters on our houses, and have replaced our old analog meters with these new digital radio frequency devices called smart meters. And there's been a whole range of problems with them. There's the issues around the billing, of course, but there's a big concern about the capabilities of the meter and what it can do to monitor activity within the home. It can monitor all activity second by second and record it permanently. So there's some really serious issues about invasion of privacy. And then, of course, there's a whole big realm of the health issues and the exposure to radio frequency radiation.
Okay. But when you say monitor, it's not monitoring what you're doing, it's monitoring electricity consumption, that's all.
Well, every time a light is turned on, every time a motor works,
Yep.
every time an appliance is used, all the appliances in the home will eventually have transmitters and receivers, and every time that appliance is turned on, it'll send a signal to the meter, which will then be relayed to command control.
Now, are those appliances for sale now? Like if I buy a fridge tomorrow, is it going to have that chip?
Well, it's done by stealth, like everything else in this business. If you want an Energy Star rating on your appliance when you apply for it, if you're a manufacturer, you can't get one unless you have a Zigbee chip in the appliance, which is the transmitter receiver. And therefore, all manufacturers are going to comply quite readily in order to get their Energy Star rating.
So if I want to buy a fridge tomorrow and I buy Energy Star rated, will it have that chip?
Most likely it will. So you're going to have a situation in the future, as you know, the years go by, most appliances will all have the transmitters and receivers. Now what that means is that those appliances can be turned on and off remotely. That means from a stroke of a keyboard anywhere in the world, somebody can decide whether or not you're going to be cooking your dinner, or if your hot water is going to be hot, or if you've done something that they don't like, they can turn off your appliances and also turn off your service. So it's a real heck of a lot of control in unknown hands for the most part, over our daily lives. A very, very serious issue. Now, over the last couple of years, a fellow by the name of Josh DeSalle has been going around interviewing people all over the world, particularly in Canada and the United States, and talking about these major concerns, interviewing health officials and engineers and technicians and biologists and regular citizens, and more or less compiling a documentary of all the bad things that are happening. So the film has just been released. It's called Take Back Your Power. It's being shown online. And if perhaps we'll have this website shown on the screen when this aired. It's going to be aired at stopsmartmeters.ca. That's our website.
So stopsmartmeters.ca.
You can go to that website. You can click on and using PayPal for $4, you can watch the film. You have it for 72 hours, or you can purchase a DVD, and it'll come.
And the film is called. What's the film called?
It's called Take Back Your Power.
Okay.
So it's really a well-crafted documentary, very, very, very succinct in the criticism, and there's lots of great examples of what are all the problems with this technology.
Yeah, to me, the smart meter thing is important. Today is September 11th, so let's talk a little bit about 9/11. I guess this is is it the 12th anniversary here? 12 years since 9/11, which I personally have no doubt that the highest levels of corporate America and the corporate political and bureaucratic world had to have been involved with the planning and the day of 9/11. I could be wrong, of course, but that's certainly what I believe, that it never could have happened otherwise. And look where we are now. 12 years later, the US government is now spying on every citizen 24/7, 365 days a year, your phone, your email. Why? Because of 9/11. Like, who benefits? This is what those lunatics wanted. They needed an excuse. They even wrote that down. They say, we need the reason. We need another Pearl Harbor. And they got it, or they did it.
Well, there's connections to everything, Jack, and even including the smart meter issue with the surveillance technology that's built into these meters. It's all part and parcel of this agenda, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as a lot of experts are concerned. There's no need for this sort of information be held in the hands of unknown persons in the corporate world, in the U.S. government. And also, don't forget that the whole 9/11 so-called attacks were, done under the watchful eye of the U.S. military and the National Security Agency and all that. So, I mean, you're not talking about just sections of the government or the bureaucracy. We're talking about a complete, unified strategy that was employed on that day to crash those planes, and the Pentagon attack and all the rest. So, I mean, we're talking about more or less the same people in the end, people that are calling the shots.
The rulers of the world, whoever they may be. I just want to talk for a moment about the role of the media in 9/11, and I think the media's role was, vital. It couldn't, because I think that if the people behind 9/11 did not have the assurance that the media would never ask any questions, they wouldn't have dared to go ahead with it, because the whole thing is so filled with impossibilities and improbabilities and couldn't have happened, and truths that the media has never shown from that day onwards. If that wasn't already in place, and it means the owners of the entire North American media, Canada and the United States, the ownership has got to be part of this. Otherwise, how can it be that for 12 years for example, there's no evidence of an airplane at the Pentagon. The media never mentions that. Hundreds of people heard bombs going off in the buildings before they came down on 9/11.
World Trade Centers,
in the three buildings. The media won't. There's no evidence of an airplane where the airplane crashed in Pennsylvania. There's no evidence of an airplane. We had a guest on a few weeks ago talking about the fact that in the airport, where some of the hijackers got on the airplanes, supposedly, there are 300 cameras in the airport and not one photo has ever been released of any of the hijackers. It can't have happened. And yet here we are 12 years later in an ongoing nightmare.
Well, and also they listed all these hijackers, which later, about 3/4 of them showed up still to be alive in other countries.
Yeah.
So the list didn't mean anything. I always felt that the effort was so ham-fisted that it wasn't like it was botched. It looked like they did these things on purpose. And that was the most puzzling thing about it, is that, you know, if you really wanted to blow up the World Trade Center, and no matter who you were, why not just do it at night? You'd never know who did it. You'd have no evidence. You know, why do you have to do it in the middle of the day? Because the public has to see the event. And I think that was true also with the Kennedy assassination, that they could have bumped off Kennedy way back in the 60s. We're reaching back. But the thing is, what's important to remember is the same forces that were at work in that assassination, the same forces that pulled off 9/11. And there's a lot of evidence to show for that.
I mean, American presidents going back to the early 1900s said there is this secret government. It rules Canada, it rules the United States. Sometimes it's more powerful, sometimes it's less powerful. Right now it seems to be very powerful, and if we can't get its hands off of our throats, it's going to destroy everything.
That's right. Good people have to stand up and get their rights back, like as Josh says in his movie, take back your power. We have to now take action and to really, really assert our rights and to really try to get this back under control. It's basically, you have some very, very, very nasty people that are calling the shots right now, and it's really not to our benefit in any way.
And if you look around, I mean, is there any leadership anywhere? Like if you look in the political world, there just seems to be nothing. I mean, here in BC, where is it? In Canada, where is it?
Well, I think sometimes you'll see a leader try to do something once in a while, and they just get hammered. Not only by the media, but even by their own constituents.
Especially.
And you realize that a politician that doesn't have to stick their neck out on an issue just isn't going to do it. And 9/11 is one of those cases where you don't have to take a position, and most people won't, just because it isn't worth taking the flak.
Anyone who is in a position of any power who dared to say about 9/11 that, you know, the official story can't possibly be true, I mean, their career would be ended immediately.
That's right.
Unless, I mean, they own the media, they own the political world. What politician dares to stand up against it? It's a mess.
You know, I really wish we could find something positive to say about 9/11. Like something came out of that, you know, but really we've just seen a lot of suppression of freedoms. You know,
massive wars. I mean, a million innocent people killed in Iraq alone.
Yeah.
1 million people killed in Iraq alone, according to the best estimates. Extra deaths that happened that would not have happened if the United States would not have invaded them. And here we are like 10 years later, and Obama is at it again, and Kerry, and Biden, and Hillary Clinton, and the CBC, and the CTV. I mean, once again, it's like there's this war, this beat of we want war. We're determined to bomb another country because they use poison gas. You hear Obama and Kerry and those guys talk about the use of poison gas. They've just killed 1 million people in Iraq.
Well, you talk about chemical warfare. What was napalm and Agent Orange in the Vietnam War? That's chemical warfare. So,
yeah, they're allowed to do it, and I've been so disgusted by the CBC. Not the people who work there. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? But the people who are forcing them, which is Harper at the top, forcing the CBC to be so corrupted on this issue. If you watch them, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they're doing. You've got a story in the Times Colonist.
Well, I was browsing the Times Colonist on September 8th now, and I don't know if you can get a shot of this headline, but you can give it a try. Basically, Alan Castles has been on your show quite a few times, Jack. Wrote a commentary on the editorial page of the Times Colonist, asking why can't the RCMP or anyone get to the bottom of what actually happened to the people who were fired due to the misuse of what they said was misuse of public data, health data, when they were doing research at the University of Victoria.
Okay, so this is the case where about seven people were fired with no cause given by the provincial government, was it Christy Clark at the time? I don't remember, I guess.
Well, it would be the Liberal regime,
Yeah.
so
And,
Clark was in.
and
that's
it had
correct.
to do with health research that they were doing. And I mean, what's the story is that the drug companies were involved because these people were looking into, do their products work?
Well, that's the bottom line, is that Alan's artfully, or maybe just been very careful about saying that, but that's always been the concern for people that are following the story. Were the drug companies putting pressure on the provincial government not to allow this study to proceed, because the study was looking at whether drugs were effective in helping people quit smoking.
Which is a very important issue because there's no studies done on any of the drugs to see if they're effective.
And they're very, very dangerous drugs. A lot of them have a lot of nicotine in them.
But I'm talking about everything, the blood
Yeah.
pressure drugs, the osteoporosis,
exactly.
the whole world of the drug companies. I mean, personally, I do not trust them for 1 minute.
There's a lot of darkness in this story and a lot of, cover up. But the thing that really troubled me was there was one PhD student very close to getting his PhD. His name was Rod McIsaac. He was one of the researchers collecting the data, and just a few days shy of him being able to complete his PhD, the study was shut down. Therefore, he couldn't complete his PhD thesis. 4 months later, Rod McIsaac died under mysterious circumstances. Now, it's mysterious because the coroner has not ever issued a report of the cause of death.
Is that unusual?
It's astonishingly unusual. Most cases, the cause of death is issued within hours, if not a few days. It's very, very important when it has to do with insurance and all sorts of other.
And so you and I were talking about this earlier, and
Yeah.
my question was, where's the media in all of this? I mean, if this allegation that people are making out there is correct, what they're saying is these people were studying the effects of a variety of drugs, and they were finding that there were problems, either in the drugs not working or side effects or whatever they were looking for, and therefore they were fired by our provincial government. And yet, the Times Colonist prints that article by Alan Castles, and they've had a few stories. But here's another headline. Across the front page of the Times Colonist, about 2 people escaping from prison around here. And, you really have to start asking after a while, why is this on the front page when the most important stories in the world are all on the back pages?
Yeah.
And for example, Fukushima.
Oh.
Where's the media? I know where the media is. The media is owned by the corporations.
Well, it's interesting. That date on your article was September 8th. So on the front page, they were talking about people escaping from William Head. Meanwhile, on the comment section of the paper, which is not a news article, but just a comment.
But it's prominent.
Prominent, but still a lot of people don't quite ever get quite to that part of the paper.
Front page is where it's at.
You have a hugely important article that has several ramifications out about not only the effectiveness of these drugs or the harmfulness of these drugs, but the implications of the government willing to meddle and to do the bidding for large corporate interests, and the very unfortunate incidents of having someone pass away during this time, that someone who suffered greatly from what appears to be some misuse of power.
And, you know, I listen to the radio a fair bit, and the radio news is filled with crime and violence. But this important story for all of us, you know, you never notice it. Crime and violence and sports, that's what's in the radio.
Yeah.
Why won't they give us the most important news about the most important things that are happening? We're up against some serious issues here, and you know, we need to be making progress. Walter, we got a minute left.
Well, what could we talk about? I mean, the Syria thing is still going on.
Disc golf?
It's got to be. We got to be glad that they're right now not planning on going ahead with this attack, the U.S. attack on Syria, because, you know, it's wrong on so many levels. A kind of peculiar story in that how it unfolded, where if you saw how the CBC covered it, they had Kerry saying they were asking him, and he was in London. He was basically saying the U.S. was going to go ahead pretty well. And somebody said, well, what would it take to stop you from bombing? I mean, and basically Kerry said, oh, well, if they gave up all their chemical weapons and let's inspect everything, and we would not have any reason to bomb them. But he says they're not going to do that. Well, the next day, there was a movement afoot of negotiators and diplomats who planned and tried to do exactly the same thing. So out came the State Department with an announcement saying, well, we're totally in favor of this, and it's because of our efforts that this is all occurring. So it was a bit of a joke. But the thing is, thank God that they're not going to do it. And hopefully
as of today, by the time this shows this weekend, they could have already done it.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
But Obama doesn't have the support in the House of Representatives, and that's the bottom line. He was looking for a way out, and he got one.
I sure hope. Anyways, thank you, Walter, and thanks for watching this segment of Citizens Forum.